glorious downtown Booger Town. I'm Buford.
I'm Booboo.
And you're back with another episode of the Hillbillies in the Holler podcast.
Again.
It's another video episode. So, hope everybody's been doing good out there this week.
Look at these $2 bills I just found.
Well, I'll be.
I didn't know I had those. That's $4.
I'm telling you. That's what I counted.
So what's going on?
Well, been a lot of weird things going on in the news here lately.
More than you know.
Son, last month, a lady in Texas was mowing. They had this piece of property, apparently been in the
You're
family
talking about the snake?
over 100 years. And they didn't live there, but she and her husband keep it up, you know. She and her husband were out mowing, and a snake fell out of the sky like a miracle and wrapped around her arm and
A flying snake.
started trying to bite her. Now, you may think this is just a Texas tall tale, but no.
Google it.
A hawk, the hawk who had dropped it, wanted it back. And it flew down and said, grabbed a hold of that snake so hard and ripped that lady's arm up. It pulled her arm up towards the sky.
Well, that hawk probably thought that lady was fighting that snake over him.
Yeah, she got a hold of the snake's head trying to keep it from biting her. And it's waiting like this, and the snake's grabbed a hold of the thing and is pecking her and clawing her.
Old dog.
I'm sure hollering the hawk version of, give it back, give it back.
Yeah.
To which the lady was like, well, I'm trying. But anyway, finally, the hawk got the snake to let go of the woman and flew off with it. But
Didn't scratch her up pretty good?
real bad, but thankfully she didn't get snake bit. So they said that all the puncture wounds she had were from the hawk.
Well, if I was a snake, I think that won't be the last of my worries right there with that hawk. I was down in Texas and performing down there, and this hawk came down and grabbed a cat and took that cat up in the air. And people were screaming and yelling, and that thing went so high and dropped that cat.
Mm.
Now, you know, they say a cat always lands on his feet. As soon as that cat dropped, that hawk chased it in the air. When it hit the ground, it picked it up and did it again and again and again.
Yeah, apparently they'll do that with the snakes. They try to drop them on barbed wire fences. I guess that kills the snake easier or something. Well, there's an old story from ancient Greece, and I forget who the philosopher was that it supposedly happened to, but some ancient Greek philosopher supposedly died because a eagle dropped a tortoise on his head, because the eagles would drop tortoises onto rocks to break them open and eat them, and it mistook his bald head for a rock. And got him.
We know some people, don't we? We do.
But anyway, so she's okay. She got bandaged up and everything, but they said that she had no snake bites, so she didn't have to worry about venom.
But she just scratched it from the hawk.
Yeah. Now there's another lady up in Michigan, come home and opened up her toilet and found she'd been gone for like 3 or 4 days, and apparently a snake had taken up residence in her toilet.
In her toilet.
Yes. Well, if you didn't have to go before, you sure had to afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
They said she picked up the lid and there was a snake. And
There's a place up in the Cherokee Mountains called Indian Boundary, and it has an amphitheater there with an upright piano. When I was real little, this family group from this Church of God showed up, and they said, we're going to sing for everybody. And of course, that's back in the days of the beehive, hairdo and everything, and they're shouting, hooping, and hollering, and the mama's playing the piano, and she has no clue what everybody else knows. She's banging away on that piano, and snakes start crawling out of that piano.
oh my.
And people start running for their lives. But she just kept banging away on that piano with, you know, the hairpins and everything flying in her hair. I mean, she's the last one to leave. I'll leave her that.
Maybe there'd been a snake handling church revival there just before they left their snakes in the piano.
Now, I knew a guy. He told me he's from Dallas, Georgia. He told me his story, and then it was verified by another guy, and he was from Florida. He said, yeah, I was there in that church service with him. He said, we were singing in some groups there, and they brought these snakes out. And that one old boy on the stage said, where's the back door? And somebody said, I don't know. And he said, where do you think they want one?
Yeah, that's what Ray Stevens said. The man said, take it. Man, don't you believe? I said, I believe I ride, I believe I'll leave. Yeah, that's...
See that? honestly, that story I just told you is based off of Ray Stevens.
Yeah,
That's based off that same story.
that same story.
Yeah, because Ray Stevens is the same guy I know. Yeah.
Well, there's another part of this story now. The part that tickled me the most. That lady said, I wanted to move the snake, but I didn't want to make him or her angry. Now, ain't that something that we have to worry about whether we're going to offend a snake with misgendering it?
Yeah,
His or her. You know,
his or her.
I think we can just agree and call it an it.
Yeah.
But it was...
so when you killed it, was it a...
Well, and do you know how to tell the difference between a male and female snake? If it bites you and slithers away, that's a male.
Okay.
But if it bites you and gives you a 20-minute lecture on why it was your fault you got bit, that's a female.
Yeah, it was.
That's a female right there.
Oh, that's all on you. You own that one. That's all on you.
Oh, I told Beulah Dean that when I read the story, and she laughed real hard. She thought that's funny. Actually, the way you can tell...
Yeah, he's going to cover up what
I'm
you're
going to tell
covering
you
up now.
how you can tell a male snake has got little hooks on the side of his abdominal opening right here. 2 little hooks, look like eagle talons, a little bitty. But that's how you can tell.
You know, every time I picked up a snake to check that, I never noticed that. No, I cannot stand snakes. I was real little and I climbed up a tree one time. You know, when you're little, you climb a tree like a monkey there and hanging on them branches. And I climbed up there and I had a snake wrap around my wrist about 3 times and I lost my mind. I fell probably about 10 feet out of that tree and I just took off running as far as I could. Of course, that in my mind, you know, I'm thinking that snakes chased me, but the snake was probably more scared than I was.
Well, sure was.
And then as he came down, I run for all I can get, and then I look up there and my mama's up there with a garden hoe just chopping away on him.
Oh, good old mama.
Well, I said him. It might have been a her.
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't want to misspeak on this right there, but Mama took her out. Him, it, or it out. Yeah, we got to make sure we got the they. It took they out. They took they. Mama took they out.
I think we got
now listen. Now I know I'm chasing rabbits right now. I got to tell you a story. And a funeral director was talking to me, and he said, "You ain't gonna believe this." He said these 2 old mountain men with beards down to their belly came knocked on the side. This true story.
You know, I know the type.
You know, listen. Athens, Tennessee. I can tell you exactly where it was, and I ain't gonna mention any name. But they knocked on the side of that funeral home, and he opened the door and he said, "Can I help y'all?" And they said, "Yeah. Do you have our mommer?" And they said, "Mommer
in there."
And he said, "Well, who is your mother?" And they told him. He said, "Yes, gentlemen, I do have your mother in here. We're working on her." And they said, "We hear you're a preaching man." He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I pastor a church down there." And they said, "Would you say a few words for Mama?" He said, I'd be glad to if that's something you want me to do." And then they said, "We hear that you and your family sang some gospel music." "Yes, sir, we sing gospel music at church." "Would y'all sing a song or 2 for Mama?" Kept calling her Mama. He said, "Well, some of the boys have to work. If I can get everybody together, that'd be great. But if I can't, we may have to do this a cappella." He said those 2 old mountain boys looked at him. He said, "Wait right here, preacher." They walked off to their pickup truck, and he said, "I just stood there watching them talk for the longest. One of them stayed at the truck, and the other one came back, and he said, 'Preacher, if it's just the same to you, we just assume y'all keep your clothes on.'"
You've told me that story. You've told me that story in the past, and I can only assume that they thought
A cappella.
he meant au naturel in the buff.
"It's all good to you. Just keep your clothes on if you're gonna sing for Mama."
If it's all the same to you. I mean, we appreciate the effort, but oh my goodness.
That's a true story.
Well, speaking of people being undressed, there was another funny story in the news this week. Well, this has been over the last couple weeks, been trending online about the Chinese zoo that people are claiming the sun bears on display there are just people in costumes. And I saw the video that was going around the internet, and it's pretty believable that it's a person in the costume because when they stand up, the back, well, you know how my jeans sag in the back? Same kind of thing. It's got that little drape to the back of the legs.
That's a nice way of saying he don't have a butt.
That's exactly right. I carry all my weight above the waist. I look like a
If you held him
candy
by
apple.
his ankles upside down, he'd look like a frog.
I look like a candy apple with 2 sticks.
I've gotten so many messages saying it. Was that you, Booboo? Was that you, Booboo?
Oh, Lord of mercy.
People don't know that story. Well, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. know
I
the
bet
story
you
about-
got blown up by the people who know the
Oh
story.
my goodness! People say, "Was that you, Booboo?
Have you been to China?
You been to China?"
Tell them what you
I've been
did.
up there on that river dressed like a bear one time. That's our high school mascot, and I dressed like a bear and waved at people going by on the road. And when they somebody from Ohio stopped and they got out and started taking pictures and everything, and they backed everybody up, and I just acted like a bear. I just sat there. That's all I could do. So that's one of the funniest things I ever did in my life. That's a true story. In fact, my hand up. Watching them all back up.
First thing I had thought when I saw that story was,
There's Booboo.
There's Booboo. And people think that's why we call him Booboo, like, you know, Yogi and Booboo, hey, Booboo, but that's not why we call him Booboo.
No, Mama couldn't pronounce baby.
Right.
It's actually short for boo, boo, boo. Boo.
Short for Boo.
Boo, that's what Icky says.
So anyway, let's see, there was another, oh! Talking about finding animals in strange places, there was a lady up in, somewhere, I forget now where she was, but she bought a package of spinach, and when she opened it up, she found a frog inside her spinach. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, maybe you don't eat a lot of vegetables. Frogs, not typically a part of the spinach recipe. But she put the frog back in the package and took it back in the store to show it to the people in the store. And they, of course, gave her a fresh one without any frogs in it.
A fresh frog?
The fresh spinach without any frogs in it. But then they took the frog.
Your spinach says no frogs included.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So then but then the people from the store
Frog
took the frog
free,
outside
gluten-free.
and released it. Don't release animals in the wild that you don't know where they come from. You need to have the wildlife people come and look at it because it could have been a non-native species and now it could be an invasive species, all because.
Well, that's like Hawaii. I was performing at the Waikiki Shell there in Oahu, and I asked a question. I said, "Do y'all have a lot of snakes around here?" They said, "No, we have no snakes." That's why they check. They don't want snakes. They said, "But we have worms with no eyes, and they're very long, and they move like a snake." I said, "So you do have snakes?"
They said, "No, it's a worm." You said, "Not to me."
No, that's a big worm. We don't have worms like that. We put them on a mighty top.
I ain't going fishing if that's what the worms look like.
That's funny. And then I'm chasing rabbits again.
That's all right.
They sent me down there and they brought me a limousine, hauled me down there to that Waikiki Shell, and I thought, boy, have I ever arrived? Have I ever arrived? Went down there and did that show, and when I got done, I had to hitchhike all the way back to the hotel. There's the limousine. They got their flesh and blood out of me. They got everything out of me.
All right, thanks. There you go. Well, do we get it right? Nope.
Nope.
We
We just need you down there for a second.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's 2 hours of fun.
You didn't even sing their national anthem wrong.
No, I did Canada's.
I'd have made you walk back from that.
Oh, listen, Niagara Falls, Canada. And if you ever go to Niagara Falls, Canada, that's the prettiest way to view the waterfall. That's my opinion, anyway. I think it's. Have you been? You've been.
I've been up there, but I've never been to the Canadian side of it.
That's the prettiest
I
side.
didn't have my passport with me either time.
Okay, if you're on the Canadian side, that is the prettiest view of the Niagara Falls. And I was performing up there, doing a sound check, and they blocked off all the streets and everything. There's 34,000 people walking around there in this festival, and we're doing a sound check on that $500,000 stage and everything. And they said, "Hey," promoter did. He said, "If you don't mind, when you get done with that sound check, just stay up there with me." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, you're American." I said, "Yes, sir." And which I found out that Canadians are American too. I didn't know that.
They're North American.
Yeah. And he said, would you sing the Star Spangled Banner to start this off? I said, but we're in Canada, eh?
Had to speak their language.
I can speak Canadian, eh?
Yeah.
Oot in the butt, eh?
Oot in the boot.
And he's like, yeah, we do both of them up here. So I did the Star Spangled Banner. Thousands of people sang along with me, and I got done. When I got done, he turns and looks at me. He goes, go ahead and do our national anthem, O Canada. And I went, what? I said, I'm from Booger Town. I don't know it. I mean, I know it enough to sing along with somebody, but I don't know it enough to lead it. He said, well, here's the words. He hands me a flyer, has their flag picture on it, and has the O Canada and the lyrics on one side. He said, just sing it. And I said, you don't understand. I've never sung this before. I don't know what key to sing it in. And I've got the band behind me, and I don't know what to tell them. And he said, do it a cappella, you'll be fine.
Famous last words.
He was wrong. This is a fact of my hand up. I held that flyer in my hand from about 4,000 Canadians. And I sung every word of O Canada. When I got done, there was only like 3 people. That's it. I thought, this is all right. I walked off that stage, that promoter had a smile on his face. He said, well, you have successfully performed our national anthem, O Canada, to the tune of O Christmas Tree.
Oh Canada, oh Canada, how lovely are thy branches, with maple syrup and hockey too.
That's a fact, man. Oh, I was embarrassed. Still am when I think about it. I'm serious, that's a fact of I am. We had a show in a choir from Canada, some university up there in Canada was there, and I told that story. And they got so excited that they waited till after the show to sing O Canada to the tune of O Christmas Tree, because they like, it fits, it works. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I said, I know I was there. Yeah. It worked. Yeah, I know I was there. And they're so excited, they're like, we cannot wait to go back home and tell our professor and teacher and sing it for them, you know.
Well, that's like,
at least you're not mad. I don't want you to be, you know.
That's like they used to do Amazing Grace to the tune of Gilligan's Island.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. It works.
Well, you can do it to some Eagle song too, isn't it?
Yeah. So speaking of bears, there's another.
Well, speaking of Amazing Grace, that works anywhere. You know?
Speaking of bears and bear news, in other bear news, there was a bear got loose on a plane flying to Baghdad. I think they said it was flying from Dubai.
He got tired of flying that plane.
Yeah, you've heard of snakes on a plane? Well, this was bears on a plane. Now, it was in the cargo hold, but apparently it was trashing the place. It seems like they said that it's a big thing in the Middle East for rich people to have wild animals, as I doubt that's really a new thing. It's probably been a thing for a long time. But to have wild animals as pets, and this bear was being transported, and of course the airline is blaming the people who shipped it, and the people who shipped it are blaming the airline. But yeah, you imagine being on a plane and go, everybody, we need to get off the plane. The bear currently is in the... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The what? The what?
Bear. Bye-bye.
The bear is currently in the cargo hold, but we don't know how long that will hold. So, bear! I'm just kidding. But you guys come this way, seriously.
This way. We're just joking. Just joking. Like sea jump. You can't make this stuff up.
I'm telling you.
You can't hide money.
That's just the way it is.
I like money talks. Henry James said, money's a horrid thing to follow, but a charming thing to meet.
My daddy always said, money ain't everything, but it does rank up there with water and oxygen.
Yeah. Hey, there's a Russian proverb that said, it's not money that brings happiness, it's lots of money.
That's right. That's what, in the movie The Jerk, Steve Martin said, I know you love the money. And she said, it wasn't the money, Nathan. It was the stuff.
It was the stuff. These cans are exploding everywhere. All I need is this lamp.
It wasn't the money, it was the stuff. You know, talking about Steve Martin real quick. I heard somebody discussing him yesterday. I was listening to Dana Carvey and David Spade's
Oh, I love that podcast, yes.
And it's called The Fly on the Wall.
Fly on the Wall.
And they had Steve Martin and Martin Short on as guests this week.
Oh, they're great.
And I think it was Dana Carvey who was talking about, and I had never thought about this, but I went back and watched some old Steve Martin videos last night and this morning, and he's 100% right. He said, you never did jokes. It was like jazz music. It was all about the rhythms. Everything you did was rhythm. It had nothing to do with jokes. And he's right.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff was.
The thing about Steve Martin that I've studied was his early days. He was funny, but as he got older, the pacing and time between, like Norm Macdonald, Steve Martin took more time, and that made things even funnier.
Right.
Now, he had hilarious stuff early on, but you could tell he was adrenaline, he was excited, and I've been there, you've been there, we're just firing with everything we've got, but we're not smart enough to take a deep breath
And let it ride.
and let it ride.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference from the early days to what he's doing now, where it's just, it's a work of art. It's a work of art to watch a classic, great. He's a great.
I found out just watching videos of myself from just this recent thing I did in Ohio. You know, I had 300-400 people out there, and it was they were such great audiences, and it was like surfing. You know, when the wave gets going, you just stay on top of that wave and you just ride it. And sometimes riding it is saying nothing at all.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
that's the fun part.
Yeah.
That's the fun part, is when the crowd doesn't realize they're the show, not you.
Exactly.
Because you know what you're going to do next.
You're
just letting it kind of do this, and when it kind of slowly gets down there, and you don't want it to totally die off, but when it gets right down there, there it goes again, and then you ride back down, then
you're like a conductor conducting an orchestra.
Oh, it's beautiful, and it's so much fun when you do that.
And when it happens right like that. But I was talking about the rhythm thing, I was watching Steve Martin do a thing where he was on a Johnny Cash special back in the 70s. And Johnny was talking to the audience, and then it cuts to Steve Martin sitting on the front row next to a little girl about 8 years old, and he's talking to her, going, "I know him. You know, we're friends. Yeah, he's my buddy." And he's going through this whole thing, and he calls me. He'll call me in the late afternoon or in the mid to late afternoon. Sometimes in the mid afternoon. He'll call me in the early afternoon. Sometimes in the late early afternoon. Sometimes the early afternoon. He can call me afternoon. He's doing this whole thing, and he just keeps naming times. And again, he's not doing any jokes, but it's the rhythm of how he's doing it. And he gets the final end of it, and it cuts back to Johnny on stage. And Johnny goes, "I'd like to introduce a man that's been a big part of my life and has taught me the meaning of friendship." And Steve Martin's doing the little girl, and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Crabapple." And the guy next to Steve Martin stands up, and he's going, "You know him, you know him." And all of a sudden, he's fanboying. It was so funny, but it was just all about those rhythms. It was no jokes in it at all.
The timing,
incredible,
and everything.
Incredible.
They don't understand that pacing and that timing. I tell you, probably one of the best I ever saw in my life was Bob Newhart.
Oh,
Bob Newhart could absolutely just sit there and sit on it.
Just kill you with his time.
Just kill you with his time, and just let it just kind of die down there and just let you. And think about probably one of my favorites, Norm Macdonald, is that if you didn't get it, he just sat there until you got it, and then it made it even funnier because he's like, "I'm not going to go any further." He's not saying a thing. He's, "I'm just going to stand there until you get it." And once you finally grasp what he just did to you, oh Lord, I miss Norm.
I tell you, to me, the funniest thing about that Fly on the Wall podcast is listening to Dana Carvey do his impression of what's his name, the guy that used to do the news, that was is now a big conservative pundit on TV. You know who I'm talking about?
Bill Maher?
No. It was on Saturday Night Live. Did the Saturday Night Live news. The guy that talked like this. You know who I'm talking about?
One that went to become a senator?
No. That's Franken, Al Franken. No, I'm thinking of Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller. Gosh, my goodness, I think his name. Anyway, but listen, Dana Carvey's Dennis Miller.
Very intelligent, yeah.
His Dennis Miller impersonation is so
great. There's a bottle there. He's always throwing these big words out.
And then he tells, it's what Dana said. He said, every time I do that impersonation, my vocabulary gets bigger.
He said my IQ goes up.
Yeah. He he won an Emmy. Did you know his brother won an Emmy the very same night?
I did. Dennis Miller's?
No, Dana Carvey.
I did not know.
Dana Carvey's brother is actually a friend of mine. He and I have a mutual friend, but he's a scientist and he's like a genius, and he invented this video toaster thing for editing.
Wow.
And he got an Emmy for technical stuff on the same night that Dana won his Emmy, and he broke his Emmy. He's like the nutty professor, or he's like the absent-minded professor. The character of Garth in Wayne's World is based on Dana's brother.
Really?
Yes, and my buddy
Now,
who knows him
says
says he's just like Garth.
Now we was talking about Oscars. Who was the actress you said that they wanted a headshot of?
Oh, Shirley
I
Clayton.
love this
Or
story.
no, Shirley Winters. Shirley Winters had gotten asked to come in and audition for a part, and they asked her to bring in a headshot and a resume, and she thought, what? So she went in.
Shirley Winters.
She went in to see she went to see the casting director, and he said, "Did you bring your headshot and your resume?" She reached out in her bag. She pulled out one Oscar. She went, "There's my headshot." She pulled out the other one. She went, "There's my resume." That's classic.
I think, yeah.
I think if you think we need a Samuel L. Jackson type for this part, you don't call Samuel L. Jackson and ask him to audition.
Yeah. Do you know how to use the F word?
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson. Oh my goodness. Okay. We was talking about comedians. My favorite two, I guess, Bob Newhart and Chappelle.
Oh, love Chappelle. He's so funny.
Chappelle, and then Bill Burr's pretty good.
Have you ever listened to Shelley Berman
No.
from back in the 60s and 70s? He used to think that Newhart stole his bit, but he used to do telephone conversations as well.
Well, there's
But
a lot of comedians did that.
But they were very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
Yeah,
but he was a
That
very
was a
funny guy.
tool. That
Yeah.
wasn't stealing anything. It was a tool. It all depended on what you did with it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But no, Bob Newhart on that phone, just he could create an imagination. Just make he made me laugh till I just couldn't breathe. You know.
What's your favorite Newhart bit?
Well, I think the submarine thing.
When we come up, we're going to be looking on either the coastline of New York City or La Paz, Bolivia, which is like high up in the Andes Mountains.
We'd like that door back.
Yeah.
And the assistant.
The captain is very upset about this week's mutiny. Not that it's any different from last week's mutiny, but today is the captain's birthday. That was a great one, and I always loved the Lincoln one.
Oh yeah, where he's getting to write that speech out.
Yeah. If I
He said,
why
"No,
don't you
you
just
just
go take in a play?
Why don't you just go see a play? And then what was Bob Newhart had a thing where he did the bus driving thing.
Teaching bus drivers how to drive a bus.
Okay, slow down. She's stopping. She's giving up the will to catch up. Okay, now she's speeding up, thinking she can catch the bus. Speed up. Hit the brakes.
Yeah. All right, now when she gets on, we're going to do this. We're going to gas, brake, turn, gas, brake. See how she spins all the way to the back of the bus?
Notice how she's spinning all the way to the back of the bus.
Oh, bless his heart. And he's still kicking.
He is.
He's in his
I tell you,
90s. He's
man.
on TikTok. I was following him on Twitter for a while.
Is that not one of the greatest endings to any sitcom ever in history?
Oh, yes.
Is the Bob Newhart show.
Newhart.
No one.
Now,
No one saw it coming.
He had the Bob Newhart show.
Had that.
Then he had Newhart. Then he had a show
Bed and
called
Breakfast.
Bob.
Yeah.
And then he told Johnny Carson, he said, I only have to do the and show, and I will have done them all then. But, yeah. But yeah, the ending
But
of
when he
Newhart,
wakes up.
and he's back in the Bob Newhart show.
Yeah. Plachette. Yeah.
Yeah, Suzanne Plachette rolls over.
And she looks at him and goes, Chinese.
Yeah, go to sleep, Bob.
Go back to sleep, Bob. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, there was this Larry, Daryl, and Daryl.
I had a beautiful wife with blonde hair, and then click, that light goes back on. She's like, oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Really? Now what?
Yeah, it's Larry, Daryl, and Daryl. She goes, Chinese, you go back to sleep, Bob. I thought, what are the greatest endings? That one and MASH.
I didn't tell you, I had a dream last night. Me and you and Squeaky were at the chili cook-off in Terlingwood, Texas.
As we should be.
As we should be. Can you imagine doing that with Squeaky?
Oh, Squeaky's he's gonna dissect it and tell him what they did
He's
wrong.
our gourmand.
You know,
He's
you
like,
got this little bit
you
too
put
much
a little
cumin
brown
in
sugar
there.
in there, and
You need a little bit of cocoa powder. That'll be right.
you sound just like it.
Oh man, well we sure do appreciate y'all coming out and hanging out with us here at Booger Town again this week. Oh, I got one more animal story.
Oh.
The otter. The otter that is attacking surfboards out in California. And the
I heard about that.
Wildlife
He
people
wasn't attacking people; he's attacking the boards.
Yeah, and the wildlife people have been out there trying to catch her. It's a female, I think. They've been trying to catch her. I don't want to
She,
misgender her.
they,
Yeah,
we
right.
don't know.
But she's been attacking these boards, getting up and chewing on the edges of boards and stuff. But they can't catch her. They've got to try to catch her by hand, which I don't know if you know much about otters, but that ain't a real good idea if you're not a professional, and it's hard when you are a professional.
Well,
and they
they're
don't
trying
want
to
to
catch her.
they don't want to tranquilize her because they're afraid she might drown. Because they're mammals, they have to come up for air. So if they tranquilize her, she sinks to the bottom. So they're in a real
As
pickle.
mammals are known to do.
But the problem is, they think the reason that she's doing this is she's been accustomed to people because people have been feeding her.
Shame on y'all.
So a fed bear is a dead bear, and the same thing goes for otters. And I just found out this week, did you know that bread is not good for ducks? I saw this thing out at the pond I was at, and they were telling
Really?
me all about the different things it can do to their stomachs.
Down there up in Gatlinburg, on the outside of Boogertown, Gatlinburg, they're feeding ducks with bread all the time.
Yeah. They said if you're going to feed them, like bird seed and things like that, but
But not bread?
not bread. And they said, but
Why
the
is bread
best
bad
thing is
for
just not to feed them at all because it's not part of their natural diet.
Well, I know not to feed them at all, but I see people feeding them bread.
I know. We used to do it when I was a kid, but apparently it ain't good for their bellies.
I tell you one of the craziest things I saw up on 321 up there in Gatlinburg, this bear, and I saw this with my own eyes, fact in my head. That bear pulled a window out of this motel room, crawled in, and crawled back out with a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter, went up under a tree in the shade and wrestled that peanut butter jar till he got it open, and he had bread and peanut butter for lunch. I watched it.
Well, I had some people I talked to last year who grandma had MS and she was real just tired and she wanted to stay at the house. So the rest of the family was going into town, and a mama bear, broke in the house while she was in there sitting on the recliner watching a movie and went into the bedroom, came in through the bedroom window. The bedroom door was closed, but she heard it snuffling around in there and went and peeked in and saw the bear in there, closed the door, and she started beating on the door with a broom trying to get it to go away.
Wow.
They showed me pictures on their phone of these big bear prints all over the bedspread. So, but they do that
Don't
because
feed the bears.
people have fed them. So
Now, nobody was feeding that bear, he fed himself.
that's right. He
Yeah.
did, but he'd been fed in the past, more than likely.
Well, he knew. You know what
He
that
did.
smell of peanut butter and bread was. He
Remember,
told-
their sense of smell is 10,000 times better than a bloodhound's.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's
They
they
smell better than us.
yeah.
Well, no,
Well, I've never been that close to one to know if they
No.
smell better, but
when
they're better at smelling.
they're better. There you
There
go.
you go.
There you go.
Well, thanks for joining us. Y'all come back next week. If you'd like to get your own Booger Town road sign, you can email us at meetbuford@gmail.com. You can also email us there with suggestions for future episodes. Be sure and go to our YouTube channel if you're not already watching this on YouTube. The
Subscribe.
podcast is on our YouTube channel. You subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we're putting out new videos. Tell your friends about us. Share this on Spotify or Facebook. If you're on Apple Podcasts, be sure and leave us a review. We do appreciate that. Those reviews are how people find the show. Be watching our YouTube channel, seeing all the cool stuff we're doing on there.
Facebook, we're on YouTube,
Yep, we
we're
are all
on TikTok.
All over them social
We
media.
got close
things.
to 1 million followers all combined.
And we appreciate every single one of you.
God
If you're
bless
not
you.
already subscribed on YouTube, please do so.
Yeah,
Gator, if you're listening,
Howie Mandel.
is still doing fine. So in the meantime, I'm Buford.
I'm Booboo.
Y'all be good to each other.